It's a time for more packages from China. Let's go. You spend a lot of money buying a Beelink product and you just want to play more games on this powerful machine you're having. And with the GPU dock, we do have the option to play all kinds of different GPUs. However, it's not like 100% compatible with every single card out there. There is a list of different GPUs, so you are limited to a certain number of NVIDIA or AMD brand. So that is something you need to take consideration if you have one laying around, or you need to buy the specific one that will, and when I say fit, but it is actually compatible and recognized by the system. So when it comes to the EIC docks, I think it's a kind of cool idea if you have already a device, let's say a Beelink mini PC. However, take note that not every single Beelink mini PC does have the option to plug this thing in. So there's a little bit of a downside when it comes to that. It's only specific to a certain kind of amount of these devices. So if you're going to be reading through it, how you need to assemble it, it's quite interesting, but also going to be showcasing you here in the video. So if you're going to be combining it, it's going to be a very expensive kit. And I must say, I do have like a double feeling about this. With a simple reason, because yeah, this is cool. You can just slip this rubber out and you can slide it onto a dock and plug in your GPU. But I think if you're having already in... Okay, how do you freaking get this thing out? Okay, let's do it a different way. Wait a moment. Yep, there we go. Okay, so if you're going to be having this GPU dock, there is only a handful of Beelink compatible devices, so there's a little bit of a downside, and there are some other DIY solutions out there, but this is just a complete kit with everything you're going to be needing. And also in here we're finding the two cables that we're going to be using for connecting the extra power for the GPU. So everything is in here. Let's see. Oh, this is the adapter, because we can also get better Wi-Fi capabilities. Yeah, but you need to buy the Wi-Fi chip and the antennas separately. So there's a little bit of a downside when it comes to those things. And in here having the cable and all the necessary screws for assemble everything. But how about the docking station itself? This thing is absolutely massive, and it's going to be no problem whatsoever sliding and connecting everything. So it's super easy. You're just going to be sliding your mini PC on the docking like that. Just be very gentle. You can feel when it's actually going to be connecting. Push it in, a little bit of wiggly, and there we go. So connecting it, it's quite easy and very, just plug and play. If you need to remove it, you can do it fairly easy. And of course, you can use this piece of metal / rubber to put it in place so nobody can accidentally like slide it out when it's going to be powered on. So on this side, we're finding the antennas that are not included. We're having the cables, but we do have an extra USB port. So that is super convenient. So in here, we're finding the PCI Express slot for the graphics card. And then we even have an extra fan connection. And it's quite interesting, never seen that before. The device itself does need their own power connector, so that is something you need to take consideration, because it does have a built-in adapter, so you don't have any, let's say, external adapters bungling around. Pressing the button, if you're going to be plugging everything in, you need to power on the docking first and then going to be powering on the mini PC, and don't do it the other way around. Compatibility, so when it comes to graphics cards, okay, so the one thing I did notice, like this thing also supports a 1060 Ti. So it's great, it's better than the internal GPU, but it's like a minor bump up. And if you're going to be buying like a cheap graphics card where the docking station costs even more, that makes no sense whatsoever. So in this video, when it comes to compatibility, I've been looking into my collection of GPUs and noticing that the 1660 Super is going to be one that's going to be super convenient to use, because it's a quite nice, affordable graphics card. But we do have 2 pins of 8. In other words, we have everything that we're going to be needing for connecting my, let's say, GTX or my RTX card. It's not going to be a problem whatsoever. But let's do a chit chat about the specifications. So it comes with the Intel Core i9, the 13th generation. So it also has the dual channel memory, in total 32 GB over here. So here you can see DDR5 and graphics. Then we're having the Intel Iris that I'm not going to be using today, but we're going to be switching to the GT 6060, but also going to be doing a side-by-side comparison with some games, with what are actually the differences.
I'm crashing this party!
So one of the things I wanted to check out is like, what kind of difference do we have when implementing a GPU? In this case, the 6060 Super. And yeah, having just been like messing around with a couple of games on the onboard GPU, and I can tell you that when you're going to be playing some basic games, this is just going to be more than enough. For example, when you're looking into some Hades or you just want to play some other indie games, they run 60 FPS 1080p. Also getting into some fighting games, I love Mortal Kombat 9, 1080p, settings too high, the onboard GPU is just fine. However, getting into Killer Instinct, there I noticed already that we do have a struggle in the frames per second and not hitting a stable 60 FPS, and that's one of the limitations of the onboard GPU from Intel. So moving into the GPU now, you can see that we're having so much better overall performance, and the CPU number 2, the onboard, is not doing anything of course because we're not using it. So let's take a close look in some comparisons, because Killer Instinct, many other games run so much better now. So when it comes to playing games within GPU, you can see a significant upgrade. Of course, test benching, comparison with the GPU, and where you're going to be using like the Intel onboard and the 6060 Super. I think it's just fun to see what kind of massive improvement we're getting and how much games we can actually play now on higher graphics. 1080p of course, but when it comes to playing games, of course, depends what kind of GPU you're going to be utilizing with the docking. If you're having more power like a very fast RTX card that's supported, you're going to be having, of course, way better performance. Screencast is one of those systems that can be played on an onboard chip 4K rendering resolution. So it makes no sense doing any testing more because there is nothing much we can do. Yep, we can use it through like another GPU, but the performance is not going to be any better than this. So I just wanted to focus on the first game, and that's for the 4K rendering resolution of the PlayStation, where we had Black that did struggle. I noticed like a lot of stuttering, the GPU was absolutely holding the emulation performance back. So it's going to be interesting to check out some PlayStation 2 performance and to see how it performs with the docking and an external GPU. But I want to be clear about one thing. So the PlayStation 2 4K rendering resolution was possible with some other games when you're going to be using only the onboard GPU. And that is also the same for PlayStation Portable. We had like 10 times rendering resolution, and maybe with the GPU we will have maybe a little bit better performance, but in general you can see that we're not hitting the 100% on the GPU. So in my opinion, the onboard is just fine when it comes to PlayStation emulation or PlayStation Portable emulation. PlayStation 3 emulation, we did notice that we did have a lot of games that runs just fine on the onboard GPU, and this has to do because this was a game that was not demanding. However, if you're getting into some other games, think about the Skate 3. There we also notice something of a different, or actually the same problem, like the same with PlayStation 2 and Black. More demanding games also struggle big time on the onboard GPU. You can see just it actually runs on 99 or 100% GPU usage, but switching to an external GPU, that makes it really interesting because we have such an overall better performance there. But full 60 frames per second, it's like absolutely great, and that is if you want to play some emulation this way. Yep, we can actually use it with an older GPU without any problems.
And go.
A system I don't really check a lot is the Xbox 360 emulation, and that's a simple reason because we do need a lot of power for the CPU and GPU, and this combination seems to be that we do have an okay overall performance depending on what game we're actually going to be testing out. But what you can also do is that besides like buying and docking a mini PC and a GPU, you can just build yourself or buy an ETX mini PC like the one from Chris Coolmod. And what you can do with this is just play all kinds of games, and you have all kinds of different variations, even with a 4060 in the inside. And the overall performance, it's possible that's going to be even better in some cases, particularly when it comes to retro emulation and upscaling. But I just wanted to point it out, there are many different options out there, and this one looks kind of cool with this handle. So when it comes to the inside, so let's do a quick teardown and showcase what's going on because of the, of course, slot for the docking station, but also when it comes to the built-in power supply. This is a very interesting mini PC. This looks kind of cool and also completely different. Opening up, it's going to be okay. You need to remove the rubber, let's say, feet underneath because you need to get into the screw holes. But beside that, it comes even built in two tiny speakers, and they sound quite good when it comes to that. So let's remove the dust filter for cleaning up. You can already see the power supply that is built inside of this machine. We can reach fairly easy into the backup battery for the BIOS, but when it comes to the other parts, let's think about the dual channel memory. We need to do a little bit more disassembly for getting into that, and I think that's the biggest problem at this point with this mini PC. So you can see they're over there. Not going to be doing any further teardown. So when you're looking into the GT Ultra, it's an all-round mini PC, but I think if you have one and you want to buy a dock and you have like an old GPU laying around, it can be convenient. But yeah, let's be honest, if you need to buy everything, maybe it's just easier to build yourself like a mini ITX for retro gaming and emulation when it comes to a price standpoint. And of course the limitation of GPUs, because so far I understand not everything fits in this machine. Thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments if any questions, and it would be great to see you in the next video.